Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, slight delay in starting up there because trying to have a complicated conversation in Portuguese via Google Translate, making an appointment. So today I just want to go over the all S's on the watch list mainly, and then also the alerts that have come through in March, some of which I went through in the last stream, but just again very quickly because there's quite a lot of them. Yeah, I won't do much on Bitcoin because again it's the same, things are kind of the same as previous streams, and I haven't really wanted to trade it this week while I've just been catching up on alts, but also just because I think it's a bit indecisive for me. But there's been scalps on the low time frames. Yeah, so quickly on the traditional markets, because this obviously is affecting what Bitcoin's doing at the moment. Bitcoin's holding surprisingly well given the S&P and NASDAQ are still dumping today. The dollar, I guess, is at a very critical level. It's had a huge drop this week. Let's go to the higher time frame. However, we're now at, so I had an alert up here originally for 3-month demand, but obviously it's a very big zone, and like the dollar and the euro have been very good at retracing all the way to the bottom of zones before making their moves in the last couple of years that I've been looking in the detail. But we're now hitting this annual level. So I kind of thought we might get a bounce as part of because of the NFP data coming through this afternoon, but it was a very, very mild NFP and really didn't do much at all. It just sort of wicked around on the 15-minute and that's it. You can see we're slap bang in the middle of the circle that I was looking at, and I think we've just tapped just above where the gap was left from November, for what it's worth, because obviously it's November, but I think it might be very slightly above that, or I've drawn it not quite right. But yeah, so I guess now it's looking like, next week is going to be the possibility of a reversal if we get one at all. You can see on, here I have the futures charts for pound, euro and Aussie, and pound and euro. Obviously euro's had quite positive news this week, so has been on a tear across the board against all the currencies, which obviously is part of what's dropped the dollar, or a big part of what's dropped the dollar. Yeah, but is now up in 3 months supply. I think the pound is also in. Well, the pound's actually also in. It's a bit of a mixed chart on the pound. I think it's also in a 3-month supply, but it's a tentative one because it was a ranging supply rather than a supply. But obviously that's hit a decent zone of interest. And Aussie's just been weaker across the board because of its correlation to the Canadian dollar. Which is obviously the Canadian dollar's been all over the place because of tariffs. On the indices front, so obviously they're all still dropping. I said the other day, they'd hit major support, which was good, but in the case of S&P, we'd hit this monthly demand, but I also said I thought it was a poor demand, like the way it's structured is weird, which tends to mean it's more likely to break. And also, it tapped very close to it on a couple of tests already. So yeah, it appears to actually run through it entirely there. So I can delete some of these levels. But I said, that I was expecting probably for it to be broken and to go into this 2-weekly, 3-weekly zone below that wasn't quite tested previously. So obviously it's bounced, just on this range high and taking out the wicks from the monthly. So maybe we'll just get a monthly swing fail here. But again, still need to see the follow-up from next week. It's still holding all supply on the way down. So NASDAQ is pretty similar. I think NASDAQ had a monthly demand here, but then also it's got a 2-monthly, so the alert's just gone for that 2-monthly there, and again it's slightly above the level that I wanted. So again, maybe these are going to hold here, and then next week we'll take out the lows. So it's still in the monthly, but it's got the 2-monthly just below, and also similar to S&P has these sort of bunch of weekly levels just below that haven't been tested. So in general on NASDAQ, watch like for a tap potentially at the start of next week into these zones, and then maybe it will give some sort of bounce. But at the moment, obviously, we're seeing that weakness. I have seen some people do some comparisons with when Trump was last in office, and we did, I think, go down through March and then bounced April, May on stocks as well as Bitcoin. So I guess we'll see if that, I mean, I don't know if there's any particular reason for that to correlate or whether it's just luck. It's only a single sample size, but yeah, we'll see. And at the moment, obviously, you know, these have come down quite a lot, so they are potentially due, in inverted commas, a retracement. Just because it's due doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we'll see. Yeah, so not much more to say on that. Maybe just quickly show the euro. And so euro is actually in, well, it's in 3-month and annual supply as well. And obviously, again, similar to the dollar, like it can retrace all of the annual supply if it wants to. And it's just still ticking along. So I don't know, again, are we going to go and take out some of these highs and go higher in the zone at the start of next week? I'm not sure, but at the moment, for now anyway, it's still holding its local structure and it isn't giving any short possibilities. Having said that, you know, last Friday we did drop down at the end of the week, and it kind of retraced, I think, in the last, you know, a couple of hours of the week, and then has just been going up for the entire week. So I don't know if it's possible we get the same scenario here this week, where we end up high, you know, maybe with a minor retracement, and then reverse the whole thing throughout next week. I don't know, we'll see. But as always, just wait for structure changes and things like that before you actually enter any trades. Bitcoin and Ether. Okay, we're now like, yeah, so obviously the indices are now pulling them down a bit, so they were kind of messing around. So with Bitcoin, this is just my low time frame chart, so excuse all the mess if you're new to me. Oh, I don't know what happened there. So Bitcoin, yeah, I said, I think around here is when I did the last stream, and you know, I had an entry here for this daily demand, and it dipped a bit deeper into that, and I think was going up. I think it was around maybe here when I did the last stream. So obviously, yeah, could have rejected this 4-hour here, could have held this 4-hour here with my last comments, and you know, it did reject that 4-hour and didn't quite make it to this 4-hour down here. I hadn't set any alerts for those. I sort of said they're possible, but mainly because it's that triangle structure, yeah, so they're all weak. There's weak supply and weak demand because they haven't managed to break the opposing buyers and sellers. But that obviously doesn't mean you can't trade them. So I sort of said, yeah, you're welcome to look for shorts there and longs here. Let me put my, where is the, I'm trying to remember the code. Oops, not that code. To put the, yeah, to put my circle on so maybe you can see a bit better where I'm pointing on the chart. Yeah, so, you know, I was really wanting the 80k area to be tested because that's where there are some heavy walls from there downwards on Coinbase. I mean, even this zone isn't particularly strong. And then, as I've said previously, we've got 12-hour below that, and then we're running into 3-month demand down at the 72k level. And then up above, you know, we have tested monthly supply here, so I did expect this rejection there. But I kind of wanted it to go a bit higher into the zone, maybe take out some of the stops here and go into the weekly supply, which hasn't yet happened. So yeah, so that's Bitcoin, but yeah, not much new to report on that. And Ether, much the same. Ether's just weaker in general. You know, it had less of a bounce. You know, back up into it had made daily supply, and it's, again, I've said previously, Ether is very reliable on the 61 fibs, and this is even more so. Normally I align them with supply, but you know, here we just literally rejected exactly on the 61 fib without even getting up to supply, although it was in the larger daily. And then similarly, you know, when we had the drop, where was that, over on yesterday, we again bounced very slightly off the 61 fib of the up move, but again, it hasn't gone very high, and is now dropping back through. So again, yeah, I said I certainly didn't want local longs on Ether, but again, it did have a 4-hour demand. In fact, didn't quite tap it at that low, and then there's hourly inside it, but really on Ether, I wanted lower, below the 2k level. So from 1935 downwards, we have a 3-month demand starting on that as well. So we're really on both Bitcoin and Ether. I kind of wanted them to go into better demand a bit lower. But obviously then the challenge is, you know, how much is it going to bounce in the interim? Ether also, recall that is coming off to 2-month supply at the high. So I am bearish on this, at least until we hit 3-month demand and see what kind of a reaction we get. The Ether BTC pair is still horrible. And yeah, but I don't know if we still, you know, unless we'll see what the Trump news does. So Trump is apparently talking, I think, at 8 o'clock tonight on UTC. You know, I'll see if that kind of gives some pump going into the weekend when everything's closed. On the ETF front, haven't looked at it for a couple of hours. Hopefully it's going to load for me. Yeah. So I said before, this is the Arkham data set. They've built their own dashboard, which I've kind of played around with and made very ugly. Yeah, this shows you like at least the most recent transfers. So there's actually a lot less today looking at it. We still had a reasonable amount of selling yesterday. So every day it seems that Grayscale sells 60 million. That seems to be a common Grayscale thing. Actually, there seem to be two here. The problem with this table is that these are also can be like intra-wallet transfers. So I don't think they necessarily dictate what's buys and sells, but they are the most real-time information that we can get on what's going on. So yeah, that's kind of always worth keeping an eye on that website. And then we've got the other two websites, farside.co.uk and Bitcoin Strategy Platform, which give you the aggregated at the end of the day. So you can see yesterday we had some more selling, but the selling's definitely died off. It looked like we might get some buying at the end of last week and the start of this week, coming in from ARC there, but that hasn't continued really. Yeah, and the ETFs are just seeming also equally indecisive. So whereas last week they were very heavy selling, you can see like 1,000. So that's worth $1 billion, I think, or a US billion. This table's in millions. On the 25th, and then equally on either side of that date, you know, we had some heavy selling there. But it's obviously died off a bit now. Just checking my stream's okay. It seems to be. It's interesting, one of the streams is further behind than the other. Anyway, I don't really want to go into the data too much now. Yeah, I mean, that's really it on Bitcoin. I guess the only other thing to look at, so again, the indecisive part of me. So looking at US dollar dominance, so this came down, so it's you know, obviously it's just the inverse of what we're saying on Bitcoin. We have a monthly demand down here. We even had this weekly, which didn't quite get tapped here. We then we had a daily supply, and we also made a 2-day supply here. So, and it's just tapped into that as of, I think, yeah, the pump on this and a dump we had on Bitcoin last night. So yeah, but I wanted again to see the reaction. I mean, it's still, again, weak supply. It hasn't managed to break demand. It's coming from a higher time frame demand, so it doesn't surprise me we're pushing back up into it again. But again, like if we are going to see the start of reversal, that's what we're looking at, the low time frames. So I don't know if we're just going to get a significant amount of sideways now, like similar to like what we had here, just through there, while the market just decides what it's going to do. Again, from a higher time frame perspective, just to reiterate and recall what I've said previously, again, I remain relatively indecisive. You know, we have a, oops, didn't actually mean to change that to 2 months, but we have we're in a 2-month supply here. So that, you know, whole area is 2-month supply. We hit the 61 fib, which is what I wanted. But then, so that's the bear case that we drop, you know, from now-ish. The bull case is that we've done a double bottom. The double bottom is in 6 months demand, even though I would have liked it slightly lower here at the 61 fib. But we've done that double bottom in 6 months demand. Just remove some of those drawings, and that we're going to play out this double bottom up into here. And we also at the highs here didn't quite tap 3 month supply, the level when we made this high. So again, it's just, you know, it's just being slightly awkward because yeah, I prefer when we actually hit zones that I expect to see the reaction from. But anyway, I mean, I guess the worry market-wide is that this is starting to look kind of quite high time frame bullish. I mean, it could still make a descending triangle, I guess, that we could just see that, and then eventually fall off the cliff and have Bitcoin pump in doing the opposite. But yeah, I mean, typically I just trade this lower time frame anyway and use it to guide what I want on to see on the alt market. And yeah, then from the alt perspective, I also haven't looked at the others chart, but I will have a quick look at that now. Let me just look at the grayscale chart quickly as well. Yeah, okay, so the grayscale chart is just resembling Bitcoin itself. You know, I just would like to see that lower. So TOTAL3 obviously was stronger than others because we had the pumps on ADA, Sol and Ripple with the strategic Bitcoin reserve or strategic crypto reserve that Trump mentioned at the weekend. But I think there's been somebody else, I forget the name of who it is, has come out today and said, well, there was only those three that were mentioned because they're in the top five, which, yeah, seems not surprising. Yeah, but obviously, so that just pumped price straight back up into monthly supply. So again, it's just mirrored what I expected and what I see on Bitcoin. You know, it does have, and again, there's that indecision. It does have a 3-month demand here. You know, that's where it's tapped off. It's gone straight up into monthly supply. So now we just need to see a little bit more what price does and how it develops. Still in a local downtrend here, so we need to see a bit more consolidation and then some flipping, ideally some flipping of demand. We do actually have a 2-day in there, so that's more interesting. I actually see that on Sol as well. So we do now have a 2-day demand that's like holding price up here. So that could get slightly more interesting. So yeah, it's certainly worth keeping an eye on alts. And also, I mean, I'll get onto the alt market, but I do think we are long overdue an alt retracement, but they are quite mixed. Yeah, there's a variety of structures, and some are significantly stronger than others, and some have broken down entirely. Others are holding demand, and I really like that because it means, you know, you can trade. You know, you can actually trade it rather than just having everything follow Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin, which is how it used to be. Yeah, so again, this is an interesting structure. We are on 3-month demand. We have held it for a couple of tests. We've now got a 2-day demand, so maybe we'll get some more move on this, but then we have to be conscious that we've hit this monthly supply at the highs. Others is, again, slightly weaker, so also has the 2-day demand. So I did think this yesterday. I was looking through alts, and I was thinking they're actually not looking, some of them aren't looking that bad on the lower time frames, you know. But again, like this resembles most of the alts that we have. Many alts have this 5-day supply in here that's getting rejected. It looked in the case of many like it was going to turn into a weekly supply, but with the end of the week pump that didn't happen. But we have this 5-day supply, and it's worth keeping an eye on these. You need to keep an eye on the 1-day through to 5-day zones, because that's when you'll see things start to flip. And it has been very common on alts over the last couple of years, in fact, that they don't give you weekly zones. They give you 5 days or 4 days for showing the reversals. So if you're there sitting waiting for a weekly supply to short on or long on, if you're looking in the other direction, quite often it's just giving you the 5-day. I mean, you can see down here there was a 5-day zone. It came up, it retested the 5-day. Obviously it was made a weekly later. Actually, in this case, maybe it did make the weekly before, but it gave the clean entry on the 5-day. And similar here, there's no weekly at the high here, made a weekly later, but we have a 5-day at the high, and that was very clean for looking for shorts on the alt market. Yeah, so anyway, this still has a 5-day supply. It's a weak supply because we've got the wick, and obviously this hasn't broken below the wick. And now we've got this 2-day demand. So it is possible we're going to get some alt movement now. So definitely keep an eye on, see if there's anything you can position in. Right, let me move on to alts. I don't know if there's much I want to say on the majors. I always spend far too long kind of covering everything before actually getting to the alts, and we've already been 30 minutes, maybe a bit less actually, because I ran it a bit at the beginning. But yeah, so I guess, I mean, I look at these more for market confluence. I haven't put any new entries on, I don't think, recently. So I've added a long entry on BCH here on this new daily demand, and we'll see, but this is just coming off 2-day supply. It hasn't quite hit where I wanted it to, a little bit higher on the, I think it was a 3-day, 5-day zone, a little bit higher, and then also the possibility of taking out some wicks. So if it does get another run, keep an eye on that, but it's now running through demand and looks like it might head lower. And the issue I have now on the ones that have moved, like so BCH and ADA, for example, is that where we look for confluence on the alt market, the problem we have is if these now start retracing the entire move up, then what is it going to do for, you know, Litecoin, which hasn't retraced or hasn't gone up that much? You know, how much lower is Litecoin going to go to have the confluence? And the same, you know, so EOS, I've already got an alert lower. Litecoin, I had a giant wick, so my alert's quite a lot lower. Ripple, yeah, already retraced a lot of the pump, and is now back in 4-hour demand. So again, just seeing if it's going to hold or not. On the new majors, sort of similar scenario that we've got. Link also had a decent move after the drop. You know, it made, so a lot of these then, you know, when they had the pump and then dropped, they then made daily supply. And in some cases, like, they've now got 3-day, 4-day supply. So Dogecoin has a 3-day that it's rejecting from here. Link just came up and swing failed the high of the pump. Yeah, so again, just looking at these triangle structures and waiting to see if we're going to get like make demands that are going to hold. And in some cases, so on ADA, for example, I did have, make that chart larger. Oh, no, that's BNB. BNB is just messy, and the BTC pair looks horrible, so I'm not really keen on that right now. ADA had this weekly demand, so I did give that as a long entry. And that has bounced, but obviously hasn't made a higher high, so might come in here, pick up support here. I think it does have the 4 or 5 day demands also at that level. But again, prep rate, you know, it's possible it retraces this entire up move down to, I think there's a 4-hour demand down there, and then also an 8-hour a little bit lower. So I've alerted that just to see what happens when it gets there. But again, if this retraces that, the remainder of the pump, then we're going to see bigger drops on BNB. Dogecoin will come down, should come down at least into the next demand. That's a real critical one to watch, I think. You know, so Dogecoin been waiting for a long time for it to hit this 12-month demand. Just take everything off so you can see. So the levels incoming now. Obviously, it's a massive zone, so it, you know, it can go a lot deeper into the zone if it wants to. It's got, I think it's got, you know, a bunch of like 2-month, 3-month demands, etc. throughout. It's also not a strong annual demand, but I do want to keep an eye out on this for the reaction, for a possible reaction when it hits that like 0.17, 17 cents area. Yeah, like I say, be conscious it can come deeper inside, but yeah, keep that on your radar in case it gets a nice reaction off there. And yeah, and then we'll be looking at monthly supply on that. And then finally, so we've got, let me just check my messages. Sorry, excuse me one moment actually, let me just finish this and then I'll reply to those messages before moving on to the alts. So, DOT, Atom and NEAR, I said in my last update, they all had 5-day, 4-day supply, all choppy and messy. And then I put short alerts on Atom and NEAR. Atom has been just short of that level. It really just didn't quite want to hit my alert there. And NEAR came up into a little bit higher into the zone, but that's giving the sort of initial reaction on that. But as I said, you know, I like to have some of the aggressive ones, even though this is potentially, you know, it's still quite a tight range and it's not necessarily the highest probability short. Problem is, if they do play out, then, you know, they could, in the case of NEAR, could go significantly lower. So that was always worth having on the radar. DOT, yeah, actually had a nice move today and has made a 12-hour demand, but as you know, it's dropping back. It's a weak one and it just went straight into the 5-day supply. Sol, I kind of had hope for yesterday. Oh, don't know what happened with that cross. Sometimes happens on the charts, the crosses just go enormous. Obviously, I was watching this whole zone 2-month for long entries, you know, just on the blind entry at the start. Then we got then it made a daily demand, so I had an alert that got run through here. But then I did also say in the stream about that, but it could come down into this hourly zone down at the bottom, which is what it's done. Then yesterday it did make a 2-day demand, but again, very weak. So not a strong close above the previous candle, and also has this giant wick. But that can sometimes get picked up as support. But in the case of this, you know, obviously because then Bitcoin was coming down, it came down much deeper in it. Subsequently, it's made a 12-hour supply. So this is still like relatively indecisive. And again, the building of these trend lines on some of these majors is not overly promising, and I'm wondering if we're going to get a drop off down lower on this. So next zone down there is the monthly demand to be aware of. But you know, again, just watch the structure here and see if this 2-day can pick up still. You know, it has held, even though it's very weak. But that doesn't mean, you know, it could just be sideways accumulation. So, you know, maybe keep an eye out, maybe see if we'll form a triangle up here and get a break of that. And yeah, just see what, and also obviously what Bitcoin's doing. Let me see how much is that. Okay, so that sort of seems to be held for now. But yeah, I'm hoping we're going to get a bit of sideways on Bitcoin now and give the alts a bit of a chance to run. But we shall see. Anyway, moving on to the alts, and then just give me one moment and I will just reply to these messages I'm getting, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Got to translate to Portuguese for these messages. Okay, so I was going to run through the watch list for March, which is actually quite long, but I'll be very quick about it and then just comment kind of where I need to. Just because you can see some of the things that have hit, and then we'll see like what's broken and what's not. So I mean, overarchingly on the alts, shorts are much higher probability still, and if you can get any tests, so like what you should be looking for, I think, rather than trying to second guess which of these are actually going to move off demand. So in this case, you can see on XEC, you know, it has hit this daily demand and it has given a sort of at least a scalp bounce. But in some cases, they're not giving anywhere near as much as this, but they're just holding at the lows. But rather than trying to guess that, I think it's much more worth looking through the list, finding ones that are pumped and shorting them off supply. And I guess we'll see some of that through but that seems to be the higher probability ones at the moment. And also anything that's kind of testing this 2 month, I think is worth watching on the lower time frames to see if you can get into shorts. So yeah, XEC, obviously I had an alert on this daily demand. Wondering my stream hadn't started again on one of the things. But yeah, so yeah, we've hit this daily demand down here. So obviously it's had the bounce, hasn't made it through supply as yet, has a weekly above, and obviously it's got a long way to go. So, but you know, you can start looking at some of these to see, okay, this has a 4-hour demand in there, or just see if it gets a test of the level and holds, to see if there's any re-entries. Like I say, I do think there's a possibility we're going to get a bounce, but again, it's just timing, and that's the real difficulty. So A8's one, I think the alert maybe went a couple of days ago, and it's still holding this zone. So it's, you know, a nice clean daily demand if it holds. But you know, at the moment, as you can see, it's been coming down for how many days? Well, since 20th of December, so fairly two plus months, or almost 3 months. So we need a little bit more than this to actually think, you know, whether it's gonna do anything off this level. Obviously I've set the alert for this a little bit lower, and the problem is, you know, you can see here, you know, that maybe there was a level there that people wanted to long, but you know, it's just when it's come back down to test this new daily zone in there, it's just gone straight through it. And that's kind of what I'm seeing on some of the ones that I put more aggressive long entries on, just to keep an eye on. AAVE obviously had a decent bounce with the pump at the weekend. My alert did go, but it didn't quite hit this or I think even the 3-week, let alone the monthly level below. So I have reset the alert on this. It's just come straight back up into weekly supply. This is one that I was more bullish on. I mean, hopefully it's not going to retrace the entire up move. But this does have, you can see the big grey. It's like a messy, but it's got a big annual demand in here. And it's also on a 3-month, so I just kind of like looking at a monthly at the start of a 3-month in an annual is certainly worth watching. So again, just keep an eye on this 3-monthly or this monthly zone. I'll show you the monthly chart quickly. Yeah, keep an eye for a retest of that monthly zone down there, just a little bit lower than the current low we've got. ACT. This is one, yeah, again, I was just kind of watching for a while, wondering if it was going to give an up move, and I had a couple of long entries in on this, but it's now just creating supply and seems to be unable to get back past it. And I was saying that in the group last night, it's quite hard to tell now, you know, if these are reaccumulation or are they in redistribution. And, you know, while we're still under major supply, and obviously got the rejection here on the weekly, and then a rejection for the lower high in here. But again, just forming those triangles, much like Bitcoin. But again, this is looking slightly ropey, but you can watch that to see. But I mean, this was always a high risk one anyway, because there's nothing here. You know, at least if this is sitting on a monthly demand, I'm more confident, but this is basically kind of just me throwing in alerts just to see. Yeah, so, and again, as I've always said, trading both sides. So, you know, you've got the short side or you've got the long side. The longs you can clearly see here aren't going as far and aren't as high probability than if you can get in on the short side. But this is just a chop now. AGI, I think, was one of the ones that had hit. Let me go back up to the higher time frame. So again, hit a major monthly zone at the start of an impulse. Certainly worth watching, but no sign as yet. But this is this should be on the radar. But the problem is, you know, some of these are then drifting deeper and going through these zones. But where you see these clean monthly demands like this, definitely worth keeping on your radar for the long side. And also in this case, you know, it's got a big gap before supply. So, you know, even if it gets caught up here, I mean, I don't know, that's going to the 3-day, and you know, but again, you would look at each of the time frames that this could, you know, could squeeze through those zones if it wants to. But you have to watch out for this daily here in case it just, much like this, comes up, rejects, and then drops further. And even like an immediate daily there. AI16Z, again, this is weekly demand. It had a very weak bounce off there, and what I tend to do is just move the alert lower just to see. In this case, it's made a new weekly supply and a 5-day supply, so this is much lower probability now, but see what happens. APT, this was one I put an aggressive short on. It had daily supply here and inside a 3-day, and is also at this 2-month level. So again, while it's not, you know, not necessarily the highest probability, because really you'd want a significant close below the 2-month, but some of these are just coming back up, tapping into the 2-month and then getting a bigger drop. So that's worth looking at on the short side, although, you know, having said that, the alert did go a couple of days ago and it's taking its sweet time. AVAAI, I had an alert here for a possible trend line break, which did go off, but it didn't get the close significantly above, and I hadn't really made. I had a long entry in here, but I hadn't really made any decent demand to add a long in. And also again, you know, lower high or possible swing fail. No, just a slightly lower high, but then we can expect to potentially take out this low. But I've left the alert on there for the trend line, so we'll see if that picks up. And again, you know, is this a reaccumulation or is this a redistribution and we're going to get a drop? You know, this is just a bear flag that's going to go into a drop from here. Bake was one I wanted. I went slightly too aggressive on the alert because it had this chop through here and it is holding a higher low, but came off monthly supply at the high, 5-day supply. This is one actually, this is worth mentioning. I might have mentioned this already in my last video, but so you can see here that we had the 3-week red candle drop down and it had a 3-week supply, and the wick, when the bounce, it's gone back up through that 3-week into the 5-day above. And this was one of the risks that I was talking about, that some of them where they haven't tested this 5-day had the risk of going through this 3-weekly in the middle. And I've set various alerts, some on this 3-week and some on the 5-day, and now some lower where things have dropped lower. But yeah, this is a nice example of how it has taken out that 3-week in the middle only on a swing failure, closed back below. So something like this, then you can potentially look for another short entry on that 3-week if it gets revisited. Although in the case of this may well create a new 3-week supply in there at the end of this week, depending on the next couple of days. You know, similarly here, actually, we've got the same applies at the lows that we had an untested weekly below, and it's wick through this 3-week, but yet then is trying to find support on that 3-week, the revisit, retest of that 3-week. I'll take out some of these levels now in between. But yeah, I mean, Bake overarchingly, while it had that decent pump, obviously that's why I say, you know, look for the short entries for the ones that have had the decent pump, because, you know, it's possible it can pick up support here and keep going because this is a monthly demand, but as you can see, it's had multiple tests on it. It's come back up, it's tested 5-day supply and also at the same previous monthly supply level, or maybe that's a new monthly supply, that's the other thing. No, it's an older monthly supply. So again, like, I don't know now if this is going to pick up support, but those are certainly the high probability shorts and the higher probability trades that can be taken at the moment. Banana, get back up to the high time frame. So this is one, again, I said to keep an eye on. It's similar to AGI, it's on this monthly demand. It could still come deeper inside it. There is, I think that weekly's been tested, so it could still come deeper and is at the moment not showing any signs of bouncing, but keep an eye on it in case it starts to give something. Bid is starting to look like it's breaking down. It's made a new weekly supply, and also, well, maybe that's going to be later, but or is it? It's got a 4-day supply in there. So again, I put a new alert there earlier today, just on this aggressively on that 4-day supply in there. Again, it's just a giant triangle. It's not necessarily the highest probability. Let's look on the linear chart. No, the logs are better. Problem is with the trend lines as well, is most of them are applying to the log charts at the moment, and you can't set alerts for log trend lines. They have to be on the linear trend lines. Yeah, so anyway, this is slowly drifting down and still rejecting all supply, and, you know, at some point I do expect these to just blast through, but I'll keep putting short entries until I actually see that start happening. And so far I don't think I've actually really seen that. Like, they're mostly slowing down and working on the short side and less likely to work on the long side. So this has made a daily supply here, so it could just fall straight away. Burger's a really nice example, actually, because I talked about this in the last stream, that again, similar to what I said, you know, this blasted through a lot of the potential short entries, but I put a more conservative short entry. Again, like the example I just gave on Bake, you know, it's come all the way to the top to this 5-day supply, and it's also hit this annual level. So, and then we also got the retest in here, a retest of that daily supply at the top of the last drop. And I did say, you know, I'd had this long entry here, and I said on the last stream, but I've got it there because we are making triangles, but it's low probability, and particularly low probability because this is coming off annual supply. So when you do, like, you know, what you're really looking for is for the annual to play out. So if it makes this annual supply, that candle's closed below, it comes back up, retests the level, and you expect to take out the low of the candle that closed below. And so this has played that out. Doesn't mean it's going to stop though. It could just keep going here. And I don't know, that had such a significant drop. I actually wonder if it's like a delisting or something like that. But yeah, so I'm not looking for anything new on that at the moment, and I put in a new entry there for a possible short 3-4 day supply. And what have I said there? Yeah, it may also make a 1 week or 3 week inside higher, depending on what it does in the next few days. Cats, yeah, again, so that would have been a hit and miss. I can't remember. I've deleted all my alerts now because I ran out, so I don't know exactly what comment I put on that alert, but certainly that's not a high probability long, but you know, it is holding. But it hasn't really gone very far, so that's again what I'm seeing on some of these alerts that I'm putting more aggressively. I mean, you know, this clearly has supply above now, but it's still early days, but yeah, there's not a high probability long. CHEX, another one for the radar. This is a 6-month demand, you know, and already had the alert and it's come back. It's not the best 6 month because it's from when the exchange or when trading opened, that first candle. So yeah, so I've also set an alert for the weekly inside that. But you know, if the 6 month does play out, that can be potentially a big move, so hence no short entries. Cook is one I talked about on the last stream, and again, similar to how I've just discussed, I mean, like this was not a high probability long, and I said that. You know, it had nothing, there's nothing this side that it's sitting in, you know, it's just in thin air. But, you know, made a daily demand here and did get a decent bounce off this. Didn't make it back up into the next supply, but decent enough bounce if somebody had scalped that. Now has made a 5-day supply above, so I'm flipping that to being more short bias, so I guess we'll see. If we get a rejection here, or we'll just watch that 12-hour. DBR, yeah, is kind of an interesting one. So again, this is slightly, like I had the alert go, but slightly front around the level, but again, now straight back up in supply. So I looked at this earlier and thought, hey, that was kind of nice. It's kind of a nice move off the low there, but still so much to get through, and so much, yeah, so we still need to see, you know, has this made, so this has now made a 12-hour demand, and actually looks like it already tested that locally. So again, you're looking for that retest to hold and see if this is going to start to make a lower time frame uptrend, which then hopefully will turn into a higher time frame uptrend. Elon, just sort of drift of deathing. So I had an alert, this is a 6-month demand, and I did have, well, I had an alert, we'd already got hit there. A couple of alerts for more aggressive longs, but it didn't go that much higher after the massive wick. And then, yeah, again, I put a more aggressive, so I had an alert for the 2-week demand and then an alert for the 5-day inside it. So both those alerts have gone, although it hasn't quite hit the 5-day. Obviously, this isn't looking that promising now. I wonder if it created a monthly supply there. Yeah, so I haven't updated the chart, but did actually create a monthly supply at that level. Put that in now. So yeah, it didn't quite tap the level, but yeah, it does have a monthly supply there. Is in a 6-month demand, so it's still, you know, between a rock and a hard place essentially, but not something I really want to look for longs until we get down here now. ENS, this was again one that you should keep an eye on from a long side. I mean, it made a 3-month demand in this whole zone, but obviously it's a very sideways choppy movement, and it's come back down to the start of this impulse. So this was one that I told the group to just keep on the radar, that again, if it can bounce here, if we can get some consolidation, then we might get a decent move off this. It does have a monthly supply above, so I do have a short entry there. FARTCOIN, similar to everything else, you know, it's in this 2-week demand, but it's, you know, so far showed no real sign, I'll delete that level now, showed no real sign of doing any sort of a decent bounce, so it kind of needs the market to be ready. You know, it's come back down into this daily at the base, it got a good reaction, but again, still in this sort of messy consolidation. But again, decent level for buying. So yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, the kind of the long and short of the market is that while we're in decent levels for longs. There's nothing really telling you on the low time that frame you should long, but also on the short side it's becoming challenging as well, because after these big drops, you know, we want some sort of a retracement, or you know, this could still resolve into you know, that's a move up and this is a retracement, and it's going to resolve into a continuation here. And particularly because of the chop through there, I actually think it's very possible that will happen. You know, like I've said this before, you know, I'm putting alerts on, you know, if there is a relatively clean level. This one, I mean, I really don't like that level, so I'm not sure why I've got that, but I'm putting alerts on some of these. But you know, they are, some of the ones like this, for example, is in an uptrend, and even AGI that I spoke about earlier, you know, it is in an uptrend. It's come down a lot, but you know, on the monthly, it's in an uptrend. Flock, this was a, you know, an example of one that didn't really do much. So you know, I had an alert for the retest of this the daily demand in there, and it's, you know, it had a little tiny bounce but didn't even make it to supply for a scalp on this. And you know, I mean, arguably it's still holding, but it's doing a fine job of heading to the base of it, so it's looking now obviously like it's going to take it out, and it's now got, you know, daily supply above, so watch for a swing fail there, but there's no particular reason it should. This isn't a downtrend on the weekly, so I guess we expected it to take out the low, hence low probability long. Grass, this is one of the stronger ones, but again, so this is a very aggressive entry and probably quite unwise. You know, we are coming out of 3-week supply here, but it's coming off a 2 month, so it's coming off 2 month demand at the base and has rejected 3 month supply at the high. So now it's coming back into, what's that, a 4-day, so there's a 4-day demand, and I think the alert, remind myself what I wrote, I think I said there's a 5-day inside it. I know I didn't, but I said it's coming from weekly supply. There is now, maybe I hadn't confirmed at the time. So now there is a 5-day inside that 4-day demand, so you know, keep an eye through here. But again, much like everything else, it's now got a daily supply immediately above. Get rid of that level. So you know, again, is this gonna continue the choppy up move that we've had so far? You know, that's kind of what you hope for. Or is this now going to be ready for the bigger drop? And is that bigger drop going to be this 3-week? You know, so ultimately it's going to take it all the way down to take out the lows. So again, that's the normal triangle indecision. GRIFFAIN. So this kind of, you know, had to, like, well, they don't look that big in the grand scheme of the chart. These are actually kind of a reasonable percentage bounces anyway. Let me see if I can, because I think this has dropped 16% or something today. But yeah, I mean, so that's like an 80% bounce from the low there to that high. So again, you know, I was just saying, okay, is this going to hold this daily demand? I had the first alert, which gave a little bounce. I gave a second alert saying, you know, again, worth watching. So now we're looking for, is this going to give a higher low? And if Bitcoin's going to dump, it's absolutely not. I set the alert, you know, I said there was a 4-hour, which has now gone through, but on top of an 8-hour. So again, just see if this picks up support in here, and if that can give you a scalp up to the high. At least it's a reasonably well-defined trade. It has broken local structure. And it is forming a slight uptrend here with the stop hunt of the low, and that's kind of really what you're looking at, what you're looking for when you want the re-entries, but also really you ultimately also want the market to be in your favour, and at the moment it's really not on the long side. HBAR, so this just slightly front ran my short alert on this. It's obviously one of the strongest charts, but again, how much of this up move is it going to retrace? You know, are we in this type of scenario where it's just retracing a little bit down to the most immediate demand and then going to get another move and potentially in this case take out the high, or are we looking at a bigger retracement all the way back down into, you know, 3-month demand or even the start of the impulse? So I didn't have an alert so aggressively on the long side on this. It's just come off the first daily demand, and my alert was on the 4 or 5 day just below that. Coming off weekly supplies, still like that to get potentially down there, but again might pick up support in here in this daily demand. So if you're trading HBAR, you can watch out for that. Again, looking for that triangle, and you know, this is actually not dissimilar to GRIFFAIN in that hit the daily, swing failed the daily, and is it going to get a retest for another up move? I guess my reticence more on this is that we're overarchingly in a big 3-month supply up here. So really I would have liked to see more of a rejection here. And if you're trading something like this, I'm also looking at the BTC pair, because that's really, like, if you look at Dogecoin, you can see the, it's almost gone up to close to previous all-time high on the US dollar pair, but it actually, I can't remember exactly what the zone is, but it's got a very, very clean rejection on the BTC pair. So, yeah. Hype, this has come down into a 3-day demand. Again, it had the first bounce off it, and now it's come back to test it. New daily supply again, so it makes it challenging in this market, but again, something you can watch for a possible reversal. ICE, same applies. I think, yeah, I guess I didn't originally have an alert on this just because of the trend line stops there, but it did bounce there, so I put an alert for a long on the daily demand. Again, that was an aggressive re-entry, and it's held that, but again, now still unable to get past supply. So I guess, while some of these re-entries are holding, they are just taking their time. But then I guess arguably we see the same here, that this re-entry came in and it took the better part of a week to actually give an up move, and then the better part of, what's that, like almost a month, 2 months before it actually like impulsed off that zone. So yeah, could take plenty of time here. IOTA had a big pump along with ADA and Ripple and what's going on with that zone, along with ADA, Ripple and the others on Sunday. Kind of slightly don't understand why that pumps quite so much. So this is in a 2 month supply. I think this is just, this was just a really, really messy structure, so I don't like it much. But anyway, all I had on this was the possible short entry, so that worked really quite nicely, and would like to see this come down lower, ideally. JELLYJELLY was another high risk long entry. Again, just in nothingness, unless there's history like before it went on to Bybit. So I haven't actually checked that, but again, that's something you should check on Dex Screener. It's an indirect daily demand. It's so far not showing any sign of bouncing, but might. J, similar, and again, I tried for the aggressive possible entry here on the 4-hour demand. Like strictly, I would have really wanted that to hit back here. Like that was really where the entry was, and I can't remember if I set the alert afterwards in the hope that maybe it would come and swing fail those lows, or if I set the alert back here and it just didn't hit it and hit later. That's sometimes what happens on my alerts, that they just don't get hit. They get slightly front ran, and then a whole lot of accumulation or distribution happens in between, and then they don't work that as well the second time around. Yeah, so another alert here on the 3-day, and then there's obviously a 4-day or 5-day demand down there. So I don't know. The problem with these coins is just isn't enough history. So is this in a downtrend or is this in an uptrend? I have absolutely no idea. I don't really. It's in a downtrend because it's coming from a higher high and it's made a lower high. But when you've had a coin that's just listed and come all the way down and accumulated, this can certainly pick up support. Could even pick up support now, actually. So that's worth watching. KAITO, and again, this is another one, again, without the history, so I'm just being aggressive. So I'm being slightly more aggressive on the newer coins, and you'll see another couple later just because they haven't got supply. So worth watching. If we do get a turnaround, they're going to be the big performance because they don't have the supply. So this overarchingly is in a 3-day. I think I had this alert for a 12-hour, and I said there was a 3-day at the bottom of it. So obviously, I think it's broken the 12-hour, but it's come into the 3-day. Now I had again similar retest. Is this going to make a triangle alert here? So I think the alert went, but it hasn't quite hit the level, and it might have come down just about there now, or maybe has on other exchanges. But again, something to keep an eye on, although not necessarily that high probability. Very limited history. KMNO, I quite liked this actually. So this has hit 2-week demand, could come lower. There's a 6 month below that, so I think overarchingly this could be a very nice chart. It's not the best 6 month, like I say, again, it's from an opening of a candle, but I like this 2-week. It has broken a 2-week, so it's but it's just approaching the start of this impulse up, so worth watching just through here or a little bit lower to see if you can get a decent long entry. And again, this is one that I think I was thinking about, that it could well come through this central zone. I think when you go down to the lower time frames, I think the 2-week hasn't quite been tested. Yeah, there are various levels. So again, I think it's just this one was just a bit harder to set a short alert for, so I just went on the 3-week just to see. But there are 3-day, 2-day, 5-day, etc. throughout that area. So it makes it somewhat less clear where it may or may not reject if it retraces or if it starts moving. But at least this has the opportunity to have a decent move up, should it bounce here. And it's starting to look like lower time frame. This is actually not looking that bad. If this creates a daily demand today, it does have a daily supply immediately above, but that's worth watching over the weekend potentially. L3. So this is one, obviously I was bullish for a breakout up here and failed dismally, and then didn't hold retest entry. So it did bounce on the top of this monthly here, but then didn't hold the retest entry. But I also had short entries. 2 short entries on monthly and weekly supply, and then the daily inside up here. So that's just come straight down off there. Again, gave a really nice long off here. So this did give a decent bounce off the long, but then straight into the short. So again, like as I've said, those pumps into short entries are the higher probability trades at the moment. So now I just need to see, like I don't love this long entry down here, but I kind of put it in because it is a clean zone. But again, follow it, forming that triangle, so it's a little bit hard to know, if this 2 weeks going to hold. LISTA. I'm going to speed myself up a bit. So LISTA again, another one. It's come off 2 month supply. Maybe it tested that. I think it tested that before the close. So it's kind of rejected, used that as resistance, but it hadn't confirmed a supply. It was a 2 month at that point. Again, it's come back down into this daily demand. It's made a daily supply. No particular reason it should hold here. I think it's again another one that's sort of floating in the middle of a no major demand zone. So again, you just see how that plays out. MASA. This is another one I was just sort of playing around with on the lower time frames because I was talking in the group about it. So it did have a weekly demand in here, which some of the group were trading, but didn't get back up past daily supply at this point despite having weekly demand. Subsequently, it's made a 2 month supply there as well. And then it made a weekly supply, so again put a more aggressive short entry and then down into a long entry. And actually in this case has had a decent move off that long entry. But it needs more time, and with the 2 month supply immediately above, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a trade. Scalp it if you want, but it's not necessarily a long entry that I'm overly confident about in here. MOCA, again, this is one I told the group to watch because it came down and hit this monthly level. It got very little bounce off the level, didn't get past supply, and has now dropped deeper inside it. And I still quite like this. I still think it should be on the radar, being as it's in monthly demand, or 2 monthly demand in fact. Let's go down to the lower time frame. Yeah, so it's hit 2 monthly demand. It's come down to a 3-day zone inside it. This is in fact, is that a 3-day supply? No. But again, still just needs to show me signs that it wants to go up from here, or that the whole market is bullish, because it's not going to go anywhere if the whole market isn't going to support just generally longs. This was obviously a high risk long entry on a historic 8-hour demand, last hurrah level. For some reason I don't have, I should have, I put the MEXC chart there. Probably MEXC doesn't have the history all the way back here, but I don't know where sometimes I get mixed up with which chart I'm actually putting the alerts on and end up putting them twice. And I certainly haven't got the alerts available to be doing that. Yeah, so I have put the alerts up there, and that's that long entry. I should put this on the, where are we? 3rd of March 2025, 3rd of March, 3 March. March is the 3rd month. Yeah, so anyway, that's basically that, it's breaking down that 12-hour. It was the last hurrah level, and it's just breaking down from there, and I think I've got a very conservative short entry on that. There's a lot of chop through here though. MYRIA, this I know hit all-time low, so I had the alert set for all-time low, so again you can watch that to see if it does hold this level, because if it does, that could be a really nice long entry if you end up with the swing fail of the, it's still got the 2 month supply like everything else has, but you know, if this did end up being a swing failure of range low and it wants to go and take out the last down move, it could end up back up there. It's a possibility. Or at least, you know, you can look at it taking out some of the local stops, if nothing else. NEIROETH. This was one of the few that's had a decent sized pump. Again, it's come straight back up into 2 week, 3 week supply there. It's got a monthly a little bit higher. But again, I've just gone, again, one of the few ones because it's stronger. I put in a more aggressive long alert on the 3-day, 4-day demand in there just to see. It does have an untested, so rather annoyingly, I did have an alert down here previously on this 5-day, but it's come off a 4-day just above it. So that's kind of annoying to miss that really what would have been a really solid long entry. But these are the structures you're really looking at to get into your longs. So you want to see, ideally, it's at something at the lows, and in this case, it's just at the all-time low on MEXC, and then it makes a 3 or 4 day demand to get the entry, and that would have been then a more solid entry to get a decent up move, and there's very few that look like that. NS is another one that sort of gave a decent, so that a while ago now. So again, as I said, you know, I had an aggressive long entry. I don't know, it must have been like a 12-hour demand there, or it was a 2-day. So I know it now is a 2-day. I'm not sure what it was at the time. I think it might have been a 12-hour. I think it was a 12-hour, but it did actually go a little bit through it. Oh, you know what it was? I said it was a 12-hour, and then I also said to see if we pick up this all-time low as a new support. So it did go very slightly below it, but then it had obviously had a very, very strong move up from there, and went straight through the 3-week supply. As I've said, can be the case all the way up to the top in this untested zone up here. Now, obviously, we're drifted deathing back down, gave a nice re-entry on 3-day supply, and we'll just see what happens as and when it hits this daily and or the 2-day demand below. NULS is just one that's looking pretty nasty, I think. Yeah, I mean, it could swing fail these levels at any point, but that's not something, you know, I think I had a weekly alert in there, but I wouldn't have been overly confident of it, I don't think, you know, having broken the trend line and coming off all this supply up here. So yeah, it's got a new monthly, 2 monthly supply above, so that's a long entry that failed anyway. OXT is another possible long entry. Again, this is one that's hit monthly demand. In this case, it's a monthly inside a 3 month, and it's only coming off a weekly at the high. So again, I think this should be on the radar. Which reminded me now, OXT, I think I should look at OM and see if that's coming down into anywhere of interest for longs, because OM obviously was one of the strongest. But yeah, this is something that you should keep an eye on the long side. OXT, and again, it's starting to kind of consolidate, but also 4-day or something supply immediately above. So Pi and Plume, again, I was looking for the more aggressive moves on, but they're just, you know, very, very slow. So I had an entry here on 4-hour demand. You know, obviously it's held, but it still hasn't got past 4-hour supply. Then again, I put another alert here on 8-hour demand or 12-hour demand, but again, it's only had a tiny bounce and so far not got past supply. Just check it doesn't have a daily or something in there now. No, I mean, at least I know it's made an 8-hour there, so that's not ideal. Yeah, so this isn't, I don't know what's happening now. Yeah, so it's made a new 8-hour supply in there, so that's, yeah, less than ideal, but again, you can watch for a possible entry if it tests there, a lower probability entry, but at least it doesn't have much supply and is sitting on a bigger demand. Plume. This is just the bane of my existence. You know, I've had alerts set on the trend lines both sides. The one up here has gone off twice, but it's been unable to go high enough to make sort of decent demand like it has made. I think it did make a 2-day in there. It's a bit like Sol, but it's come obviously deep down inside it, and it's a weak 2-day, and it's really just a range. I have another alert set on the 4-hour here, so you can just see what happens there, and then the alert remains set on that trend line for the possibility of a short if it makes a decent break of the trend line and gives a retest. Pol was a nice short, I know that. So again, this is one I've been more aggressive on the short side. Had a very nice short off weekly supply up here. It's dropped down, it's now made a 5-day supply, so I put another possible short alert. I mean, again, the difficulty is, are we going to reject off the level, or are we going to retrace a lot more up higher inside? The other thing with Pol again is it is now finally on this weekly zone that I wanted it on. So again, it's at the possibility it could give a reversal at this point, but until I see that, the weaker stuff, I'm still putting shorts on. Pollux. What have we got here? Trying to remind myself. So again, okay, so this is in an overarching, is in a 3-month demand, and in fact appears to be in an annual demand, also in a 3-month, and then has hit a monthly at the base of that. And it's got significant supply above now, and it's got the 2-month like everything else, but again, possible long entry. I've kind of reset the alert for slightly lower in case it comes down, you know, rejects this 5-day and comes down and taps into the weekly a little bit under there, but I guess we'll see. And it's got, yeah, 4-day, 5-day, 3-day, various supplies above now that it's going to have to get through. Possible it's also got a 2-week in there. Prime is another one. Again, I had an alert set for here, it went off 6 months, and then it hasn't quite hit the level, so I've reset the alert, but again, something to watch if it goes back into here. Decent possible decent possibility for an up move, you know, having retraced A, B, C, taking out this low, and then potentially for the start of a new impulse. Cubic I know is a very nice short, and I don't think I've added anything to this. This is an example of one of the ones that's just come off a 2-month supply there, so just a neat rejection on 2-month supply. Checking if I have any comments or questions. No, nothing so far. Yeah, so just a neat rejection off 2-month supply and a daily that was just at that level. So again, you want to look for a lower time frame at the same level. You know, it's the risk that these things can pump very high into the 2-month if they want. But if you get something like this is a broken all-time low, didn't look like it was swing failing, worth looking for a short. So yeah, those are ones to keep an eye on. Ren's another one that's pretty ugly, again coming off where I think it's made a new annual supply, but it came off it when it was a 6-month. Just double check, yeah, so hasn't tested this annual level, so again if it comes back here that would be looking for a short. I think I haven't put any actual alerts on this because it's too far away. Obviously it's I think this got delisted from Binance as well, which is why it's probably likely to be delisted from XC at some stage. Nice short entry there on the weekly supply. Rex, this is one that you should still keep an eye on. Again, I mentioned this in the last stream that, you know, if it breaks down this orange level, then obviously it could retrace anywhere all the way down here. These gaps I don't think there are differences in prices. I think it tends to be when MEXC has delisted it, so this from August it gets delisted and then relisted in December, and thus you end up with a big price gap. I mean, maybe there's more history if I looked at CoinTrader, but again, so I talked about on this on the last stream, as soon as it breaks the low, then I look for an aggressive short on whatever new supply has been made. So in this case it's made a 5-day supply, and then now, which it hasn't tested, but I think it had that 2-day supply, so again I put the aggressive short entry on that 2-day supply, and looking potentially for this to give some sort of significant drop if it's feeling so inclined. But yeah, keep an eye on that one for new entries. Res is a nice long and is about to come up into that 2-month supply, so again you can watch that if it hits. It's obviously rejected just before my alert. And again, another example where it had a nice entry on 5-day demand in here, and it has made 2 days since then. Obviously I didn't get the long in time or didn't check it in time, but then it's just tapped off the top of that 2-day for that big move. So those are what you're looking for to get in on the long side. Ron, I think it's another one that's in, yeah, so it's in a major, now in a 3-month zone here, and we're hitting a 3-day inside the 3 months. So really want it to hold here. If it doesn't, then it's got a big drop, so certainly get the hell out if you're, don't be buying this for long term here, but it's a decent area for it to keep an eye on it. It's also got a historic monthly level at the same area. So yeah, something to keep an eye on the long side. Sand is another one to keep an eye on the long side. Again, it's come down into a monthly demand. It's in a 3-week, actually hasn't quite hit the monthly, which is where I think my alert was for the 3-week and the monthly. This is, to be fair, looks like a lot of the others, and I don't love it. A lot of these, have broken down through this zone now. These are the ones with history, where they've come down, they've gone sideways, they've tested monthly supply, which most of them have here, to varying degrees, some higher than others. They've dropped back down, retested, and some are now kind of down here. So be a bit wary of something like this. I think there's probably, like I say, the newer coins are probably wiser than the ones with all this history, because this has so many people who have bought higher. SLC is another one that I was kind of watching low time frame, and it's fairly nasty and wicky, but has given, did give a nice entry on 12-hour demand there and gave a wick up. And then, it's struggling with this 5-day supply, but again, this was again one of the examples I gave as not sure if this is accumulating or redistributing. Obviously we've got the swing fail of the low here, which is nice, but we've got a fair amount of trend line stops going on here, but again has held this level, so can watch that for longs. At some point maybe it'll come up. I think these are from is obviously from another chart, I believe the CoinEx chart, but I'd have to go and check. But yeah, history before MEXC, but again it has got the opportunity to go higher if it wants. It's already tested this 3-week supply and dropped down. Stonks was another little bit optimistic one. Let's drag that down. It does have a weekly demand, so I put an aggressive alert on the start of the weekly. I mean, it's messy. There's a 2-week below, and then it's not a strong weekly. So you can show you can see that 2-week. It's still not strong because again it hasn't managed to break those wicks and this weekly demand. But again, could pick up. It's now dropped down into this daily inside the weekly. It probably needs a bit more time now. It's got 2-day supply and 1-day supply above, so I don't know, it could just tap back up into there and come drop down lower. So give this some more time and see if it develops any sort of pattern here. I don't know if Stonks is supposed to bear any resemblance to SPX. It's not doing a very good job of it if that's the case. STPT I liked. It's coming off a 6-month demand. It did come back down into it. So the problem is what we've had already, I guess, is that we've already dropped deeply into it and we've already pumped. So again, we're looking for what the retest is going to do. I think the 6-month does look a little bit messy. Yeah, so you can see it's already dropped into it and it's already pumped. So I don't know what's going to get follow-up. It's already come off this monthly down here. But again, I was just looking to see, are we going to get any bounce off this 2-week demand in there. And I think I previously had an alert set for this hourly supply up the top here, which obviously got just missed, which is rather annoying. Yeah, I'll leave that there because you never know, it might come. If it can make a higher low here, it might come and make a higher high. But yeah, it's not the highest probability, but at least this is one of the more bullish charts out there. So this is FTM. So that obviously everybody got super bullish on because it had a decent bounce. It did come off this 3-month demand, but it's already come off it a couple of times. So it's a difficult chart. It had a monthly supply up here. It's just gone up into that monthly supply and dropped straight back down again. So I did have an alert just in case on this daily demand here, but I don't love it when it's coming off monthly supply like this. Yeah, so I had an alert here for this daily. It got a little bounce, but not up into supply. This daily also got a little bounce, but not very far. So, I'll kind of probably leave it alone now once trying for a couple of those higher lows, and maybe it'll get a bounce here. But when I look at this, it's just super messy. And it's just like a sideways in this parallel channel, and it's kind of not at the bottom of the channel quite, and also just a little move in the middle. So it's hard to know if it is doing this for that another continuation, or is it kind of doing more like this where it's going to just drift back down and take out the lows again. TAI was also one I said to watch, but again still very, very little in the low time frame. Obviously the expectation is for it to take out these lows, which it has, but again not much of a bounce thereafter. But keep an eye on that. I've also set an alert here, if it comes back down into this 3-day zone at the base. Toshi is another possibility. Hits 3-day demand, again very little bounce so far, but keep an eye on that because that could make a decent move if it wants to. VVV was a high risk long entry, and obviously really you probably wanted this to hit well back here. and now it's made quiet, a lot of supply above, but you know, that's already gone off. Wouldn't necessarily say that's the best trade to take. You can potentially watch the trend line if you want. Maybe I shouldn't draw it from the top, I'll draw it from here. Can see if that gives a trend line break. Yeah, it's not. Again, I can't set an alert on it because it's not decent on the linear. But yeah, you can watch for a trend line break there to see if this is going to give you something. Getting towards the end now, thankfully. So ZBCN, I had an aggressive alert on daily demand here, but again, hasn't got past daily supply. Gave a rejection on the weekly at the highs. Obviously, this is one of the stronger charts. Be nice if it comes back down into monthly demand here, whether it will, or 2 monthly demand. I don't know if it will or not. But yeah, again, just a triangle. So the alert gave a nice entry, but it's, yeah, the move is essentially over now. We need to see if it's going to make a higher low or not. But overall, again, compared to most of the other charts, this is one of the more bullish ones. Zerebro, how you pronounce it. This does have history on Dex Screener, I know that. Hi Daniel, nice to meet you as well. Do I trade, yeah, you only asked that question a short while ago. Do I trade Forex? Yes, I do. So yeah, I have, if you haven't found my alerts, I have a Telegram channel that has all my Forex alerts, and they all go onto Twitter as well. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see all my Forex alerts, or if you go onto Telegram, maybe I can show you that. Hold on, let me just see if I've got it. Get it up. I don't do so much analysis. I was doing streams. I will at some point do more streams on FX, but at the moment I'm not, because yeah, I'm trying to get through all the crypto stuff. But yeah, so if you go on my Elisa's FX analysis channel, Elisa's FX analysis, all one word, then you can get access to my alerts for those. So that's, you know, these are free, whereas the alt and crypto alerts are in my premium group. So these are free alerts, so you can then just watch. And it's the same applies if you've watched any of my other analysis. You know, you're watching zones as and when they hit to see if they give you a reaction. So for example, we've just had NASDAQ just go, it's hit 2 month demand with a 3 week a little bit inside, and it's up to you to then see if the market's ready for that kind of alert. But yeah, once I finish the alt watch list, which I'm up to the S's on the watch list, once I've got down to Z's, I'll be able to sort of be a bit more flexible in what I'm doing and maybe do some more FX streams. But yeah, let me know if you have any specific question. I did talk at the start of this live very briefly about the dollar and the euro, but yeah, not extensively, but you can go back and have a listen to that if you want. Yeah, so Zerebro, I can't remember if there's something over here, but I do know there's history on another exchange. I mean, obviously it broke down here, and maybe it's now at all-time low, and this was the history. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's just come into 3-day demand, and the alerts hit today. You know, this is still a fairly big downtrend. You can keep an eye on it, but I'm not necessarily overly confident we're going to get a bounce here. But you can just see what it does. Zig's just causing me pain, and I've just kind of given up on it temporarily. So I really wanted to see a big breakdown of this trend line, because if we get that, it's got a decent sized drop it can do. It is, however, still a monthly demand, so I didn't want to be too aggressive. I had this line last night, you can see it made daily supply, and I was tempted to put a short entry on that daily, but then also the daily was in, you know, this massive, actually no, the daily here was smaller, but also, obviously, it's come down heavily, so it could still retrace this whole wick, which is ended up what it's done. So it gave a nice short entry up here on the monthly supply. I think I had 8-hour monthly supply, so that was actually a really nice tight entry. It came down, has set the alert off. Oh, 2 crosses there. Has set the alert off the break of the trend line here. But again, need to see a proper break and a proper retest. But yeah, you can keep an eye on this for possible breakdown. But yeah, it's just being messy at the moment. ZRC, another, you know, had a decent up move straight up into supply, would have given a really nice short entry up there, and it's now back down in daily demand, so may or may not hold here. It's already had a little bounce, but yeah, you can keep an eye on that. again, like the daily is floating in nothingness, so there's no real reason for this to act as strong demand. Yeah, so that's all the alerts, and that took somewhat longer than I expected, so I won't do that again. Normally I just do the current ones, but talking through the whole market, it kind of gives me more of a sense of what the market's going to do, like, as a whole. So anyway, just give me a moment. I think I just need another quick break, and then I'll get on and do the S's, and then just show you where all the alerts I put on these are. And I need to remove some of them where I put too far away alerts, because I'm dismally running out of them. Why did that not delete? Anyway, give me a moment, I'll have a break, give me, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, and I will come back shortly. Okay, hi, back again. This is turning into obviously a much longer stream than normal. But yeah, give me a shout if you have any questions. So yeah, and I will try and be quicker on these because it's really just showing the levels. So Obviously, SAFEMOON's made a weekly supply here immediately at price. It's already kind of rejected off it. I think I had that alert actually before for this 5-day supply. So again, it's just missed my alert, but I've just left it there because we'll just see if it comes back up. It does have a clean 3-day supply in there. So, but this could just dump from here. So, and again, as I've said previously, like, you know, I'm putting more conservative alerts in. That doesn't mean I'm bullish for it to get up there. It just, because it can just mean that it's going to drop from here. And if you want to get in on lower time frames, you know, you can see this has made a daily supply. It's taken a few days, but rejected it. It's now made another daily supply, and then rejected that. And then it's made a new daily supply. And it looks like it actually might have just tapped off that and rejected that today. Safe. Go back up to the high time frame. So again, this has got a 2-monthly supply in there, and I've gone slightly more conservative on the alert. Just well, it's just got the same choppy mess as so many others. You know, the 5-day, 4 days through here. So the alert's just hiding under the 4-day there. But this is just rejected off the weekly supply right below. So I don't even know if it's going to get back up there. I'm just like I'm becoming more conscious. I think that we're potentially could have some sort of a reversal, or at least a retracement, whether it's going to be as big as that or just less, I don't know. But again, I'm just looking now at the prospect of if we do get some of these reversals, are we going to, you know, just get this and then, sorry, the pen went wrong there, but you know, you get the idea, where we go down and then we just get that the next down move. So we'll see. You know, with these new 2-monthly supplies, I'm thinking that's fairly likely. But with the others chart, maybe not. You know, maybe the others chart is going to pick at least, you know, some of these up on the monthly demand that's hit. Saga, another one that's just in a major downtrend. I've just alerted the 2-monthly supply on that, and it's got weeklies and various things inside it, but see what happens when it hits the level. Samo, this one I did have an alert for a long off this monthly demand, but again, it's the bigger downtrend appears to be winning out. It's come right down to the bottom. It hasn't broken down, but again, not looking overly promising. Does also have the 2-month supply in there. I don't know if this hit, where did that hit? January? No, so that hasn't tested it this month. Actually, let me just double check in case the yeah, so that rejected actually just that was the 31st of January. It rejected the level before the level had even been confirmed, which is kind of interesting actually, because that sometimes means it's been confirmed on the Asian charts first and has come off early. But regardless, I've set the alert for if it retests. The problem is here, it's just there's a lot of chop. So this is one that, you know, potentially could run through to the higher time frame supply, sorry, to the higher supply if it wants to. But again here, looking fairly likely like this is potentially going to break down here. I mean, it did. My magnet isn't working well at the moment. Got to the higher time frame, make it a little bit easier. Yeah, I mean, it did take out those lows on this. So it had the low there made 2023, and it did take out that low before bouncing. So, you know, it could still bounce here, but again, not giving any signs as yet. It's just still rejecting, as like everything else, still rejecting every local supply. I should actually say on Samo was one of the ones I gave as an example. So these alerts, I think these two, I gave this as an example early on because there was a monthly demand in here, and I was giving an example in my Telegram about how this was a weak demand. You know, it hadn't made a higher high, so I didn't necessarily expect to bounce here, but I'd set some of the alerts just to see if that's what we got. And then this was one of the first ones to break down and get the retest. And then even here, it didn't get a bounce off the 2-month demand in here, and it's just drifted further. Sand, I think I've already just talked about because it was on the alerts. So yeah, that was the long entry is kind of now-ish, and then the short entry back up in 3-week supply there. Santos, this is one of the ones, again, it's just tapping off this 2-month demand in here, so it's hit it a couple of times and it's still holding, but I definitely don't want to be long in this now. I want to long lower, and then, you know, if it does run through, there's too much supply in here, so if it does run through, there's a 3-day, 2-day and a weekly up here. But again, with the 2-month supply, I would hope this would come down here first, and then I'll start looking at where we may put short entries. Back up to the high time frame. So Sats. This is kind of interesting actually. So keep it on your radar. You know, it has made a swing fair to the low, and it has got a weak 2-weekly demand here. And again, it could just be slow off the game. like testing in here and holding. But you know, if this 2 weekly demand does hold off the back of the swing fail here, could get a decent move. I have still got an aggressive short entry in. There's a 3 weekly supply, and then it's got a 3 month just above that. If that's, let me check that's confirmed. Yeah, so it's already come off the 3 month just above that. So I'm assuming, you know, that for now we're still in a downtrend. But this is worth an eye for watching, you know, because if this is a swing fail here, again, it could take out those trend line stops and run all the way back up to the top there. But again, we've had, what, how long, you know, since February, 5th of February, so we've had a month of sideways in here. So when it's going to move, I have absolutely no idea. But if you want to throw a little bit of that with your stop below the low and just see, that's something you could do if you're a high time frame investor more than a trader. SCA. Another one, a fairly nasty downtrend. Again, I've been slightly more conservative on the alert. This is a weekly and a monthly supply inside the 2 monthly. And again, reiterate, like, it doesn't necessarily mean I think it's going to go up there. It could still reject off the bottom of this 2 month. I just like to have a variety of alerts depending on how aggressive is the market. Can generally make an aggressive move or a passive move, I guess. It could be the whole market could decide it wants to go, you know, massively up, you know, possibly not take out the whole thing like that, but, you know, maybe up to here and retrace up to 70, 78 fib, or the whole market could decide the 61 fib, or the whole market could only go the 50 fib. So I think this entry particularly is around the 61 area, so assuming this is the low, which it may not be, so it's just assuming, okay, we're doing a broadly, this is the area you'd be looking for shorts to follow up the downtrend. SCRT. Look at that. So this isn't, yeah, I don't love it either. You know, it's on a monthly demand. It's had a bounce. I have had the alert on there, but it's bounced and now it's just coming back down with a new weekly supply. So again, I've just put another short entry more aggressively on the 3 week supply there. And I don't really want to put any longs through here because I just don't think it's clear enough and it's too large an area. But that's a weak monthly demand, as I've talked about previously. SCR, I think this is another one that just missed my alert, so it's got a 2 week supply up there, and has just fallen straight from just below that level. So again, just put in the alert, or left the alert alone if I had it previously, just to see if it gets tap up, maybe taking out these two highs. But again, this is similar to others, you know, there's a lot of chop through here in this big wick, so it could still want to run up to the top of the down move. SC, I think, was kind of interesting high time frame as well, but again, just nothing on the low time frame to say take the entry, but it's in a big monthly demand, a 3 monthly demand in fact. It's hitting a 3 week demand inside the 3 month, but again, still a lot of supply, so it's come up and tapped up into that 3 day supply. So when the market's ready, maybe this could be a good one to look at. Yeah, just needs more time. But I think, as I think I commented on at least one of the alerts, you know, that could be the ABC back down into this the start of the impulse, and we could get a decent move up from here. But yeah, we need to watch, you know, watch the daily, watch the 12 hour, you know, if depending on how confirmed you want your entry, watch for the break of the weekly, but then it's still going to get straight into 2 monthly supply, which again is the challenge with so many of these now, that even if they do have, just throw another couple of levels while we're here, that even if they do get through local, let me just grab this, even if they do hold these local demands, they now have supply, very high time frame supply immediately above. And they're not the cleanest 2 months, they are large, and in many cases they're made up of a couple of candles like this. You can see there's 2 green candles. So that could mean we run into them, but I'm again seeing mixed so far, like some of them are just rejecting straight off them. Put that monthly in as well. What we will also get potentially is, you know, again, if we don't bounce in March, a lot of these are going to make 3 month and much cleaner 3 month supplies. Yeah, anyway, something to keep an eye on, but at a low time frame is not giving anything so far. SD is very much in just a sideways range, but something that's worth watching. I had an alert here for this daily demand, which had a decent bounce, but again, just back up into weekly supply. So I've now set a new alert on the weekly demand a little bit below. SEI. So a monthly demand down here could, again, maybe it swing failed here, but the swing fail, if it is one, has come straight back up into the 2-month supply again. And again, this is another example you can see where it's just rejected. You know, so I had the long entry for the possible higher low here, that's failed, and then it rejects at the same level as your long entry, which has failed. So that's also a structure that you should watch out for. And then, but you know, it could still hold this orange level of support, but I guess we'll see. But this is not something, this is something I want to trade a bit lower. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm too conservative looking all the way down here on the 2-month, but you know, the daily and a 3-day above, but that's, yeah, more biased to short. 5-day supply up here, looking for shorts, if it does manage to bounce significantly from here, just because there was a bit too much chop in the middle on that one, I think. And also because if people are more bullish on SEI, people like to buy that. So yeah, if things run, then potentially things like SEI and the things that are popular can run more. Let me just check my stream is running okay, seems all good. Yeah, so okay, so SFP is just a nasty mess, and I think I was looking for shorts here, and then it just wicked around with a horrible wicks on it. I have put an alert on 2-month supply here, but you can see the comments, it's very wicky, so I just don't know. And if you look at the lower time frames on this, you can see very much it's making trend line stops through here. So whether that'll work, I don't know. You know, as you can see here, it made all these trend line stops. You know, it did have an initial bounce and then eventually went and took all the stops. So again, we'll see. I've set the alert, but you know, it's the kind of the alert that if it's going to wick through it, it probably would have happened by the time you actually see it when the alert goes. But yeah, I've set it regardless, and then I've also set an alert on 3-month demand down there. SHX, okay, I'll just quickly show the other chart of this first. So this, because there's much more history on Bitmart. So this has a 3-month demand in here, a couple of 3-month demands. So I'll show you, it's a bit, it's not clean because the close is not the same as the open of the 2 candles. So I've got sort of 2 levels there, but the lower one really is the valid one at 88. And then there's this annual level a bit lower inside. So I've kind of transposed those onto the MACD chart because the Bitmart chart is just too messy. So I'm saying, you know, so my alert here is 4-day demand, but there's a 3-month that's at around 0.009 and a yearly level at 0.72. So that's quite a lot lower, the yearly down here. I should probably put that in actually. Yeah, so the yearly level would assume the 4-day is broken, but again, worth watching this 4-day. Kind of tapped quite close to it there, but worth watching that because of the 3-month that falls at the same level. And again, on that basis, I've just put a short entry up here. There's too much mess through this area for decent shorts. I mean, if it makes a weekly supply, that you should watch out for. I put it in, but it hasn't confirmed yet. Yeah, there's a wick through a few of those zones and now it's dropped off. So yeah, I may expect this to run if it does hold this zone. SKL. So another similar to the bigger structures that I've talked about. This actually, this now reminds me of S, which I think I showed before because the alert are gone, but the alert will come up again later because it's in the S's. But again, like I think S went higher here. Maybe it made a higher high. But again, this is why I'm sort of slightly wary of these entries holding. You know, this is a lower high. If we'd had a long here, which in this case I didn't, you know, it would have broken, and it's broken down because it's coming off that lower high. So again, I've kind of put an alert in on this 3-week demand at the bottom. I don't necessarily think it's high probability. It's coming off annual supply at the high. It's rejected again. Maybe it's rejected the annual on this. I think it's rejected the annual twice. So it went up into the annual supply here and then has rejected monthly supply and that same annual level later, and again is coming down. So this potentially I expect to break the low, but whether it will give an interim bounce here, we'll see. And then also has a 2-weekly supply there, so I put a possible short entry just in there. SLC. So obviously I've got the gate chart on, yeah, because this has got a lot more history on the gate chart. So I did actually talk about this. Yeah, this is what I talked about as part of the alerts, that it was one, you know, so go back to that bigger chart. So the gate chart, obviously, it's got the bigger breakdown, but it shows all the history that's up here, and the fact that it had this big drop off, a lot of accumulation here, and this big drop off, I think, when it got listed on futures. I don't know if it's just MEXC or others, but so thus these charts don't have that history. But again, we might see that retracement or that push back up to those zones. So I've kind of had more interest in possible longs on here. Swing fair of the low, it's still rejecting supply, and I've had another alert go off on this today, so you can see if this 2-day level holds. Be conscious of the trend line stops there. But yeah, keep an eye on this one, because that it potentially has scope to move back up to at least go and test that 3-month level that was on the gate chart. Slurf, yeah, is just again one that's, you know, maybe it's forming a bottom there, who knows, you know, there's many times here that it could be thought to have forming a bottom, some of which were and some of which weren't. I put an alert here just on the 2-month supply. Don't know why this is reloading. But yeah, it's another one with just a fairly clean downtrend, a big drop off, and then this 2-month supply, so I've just put an alert for short should it retest that zone there. SLF. So that actually kind of would have been a nice entry off that weekly demand at the low there, but again it's just come straight back up into 2-month supply and is rejecting off there. This does have a 5-day demand, I believe. Yeah, so it had a 5-day demand, which again it's holding. But again, I think these just need a bit more time for sideways and accumulation to see, you know, it's had such a long downtrend. And with the 2-month supply, so my alert's slightly higher on the weekly inside the 2-month. Again, just need to see if this is, you know, is this going to pick up the start of the impulse for another big up move. I'm not sure. Structurally it can, but then when it's got so much monthly supply, 2 monthly supply times 2 above and the various things in between, it's hard to know. You know, it is crypto, so we can get this. But again, the probability of that off this zone, I'm less confident of. But the market just really has to support that. So, you know, something to keep an eye on the lower time frames at least. SLP, so this is one that it's bouncing now, but I was looking at this earlier, and it, you know, it's obviously had a 12-hour demand in here, and it's now starting to break it down. So I would like to see this come lower, and probably not dissimilar to the slurf, the SLPF chart that we just looked at. I put a more aggressive short entry here. It does have a 2-month supply in there, and then it's got a 2-weekly just underneath it. So again, if it just comes up and takes out this high into that zone, then possibly it could give a more aggressive short entry to get down into here. Smile, one of the ones I was referring to earlier when I just said, you know, are they accumulating or are they redistributing, or what are they doing? I don't know. I mean, this obviously has had many days of downtrend, a giant wick taking out all those stops, and now is just doing some sideways fun. And one of my group looked at it yesterday and said it's very low volume, so I think it'll be hard to enter with any size anyway. But yeah, I mean, this is just guessing really. Like, it could end up be like this and just fall off another cliff, or it could end up with a retest. You know, I mean, this entry is probably not great, being just above that wick, but again, it's not something I particularly want to trade anyway. SNT. Another one potentially of interest, you know, it's in a 6-month demand, so obviously had the original alert for that 6-month here, and then, you know, it's come deeper inside, it's got a 2-week, a 3-week, and then it's got this monthly. So my next alert was for the monthly. I'm not sure if that's gone again or if I've reset it again. Interestingly on this though, it has had the 6-month bounce and it's gone straight up into monthly supply, so that's pretty nice. Like, if it does take out this low and then you see strength off this, at least this is already tested. So yeah, I haven't got a new alert in there as yet, but that would be, I think I was umming and ahhing again this 5-day supply here, but it's got some stops there that might be targeted, and then this untested daily at the top. But then also similarly, you know, this is a 6-month demand, so if this 6 months plays out, then again we could get a bigger move off this. Let me just have a quick look at the higher time frame. Yeah, I mean, it's in a downtrend, but I mean, it's still just triangling and sideways consolidation in a downtrend. So, you know, but when we do have it, so I guess we've got the larger downtrend, but we've got, you know, a big, oh, did not mean to choose that tool, brush. So we've got this move, you know, it's retraced to the start of the impulse, and now here it's at the start of the impulse. So, you know, again, is that our our next move on this, or are we still playing out this bigger drop? That's, you know, the same challenge that I'm having of all of these, you know, with these sort of giant triangles. But like more immediately here, you know, we did have a break of structure. So, you know, we took out the low from here, and then we took out the high. But again, like, it's not definitively, like, if this is significantly taken out the high, then this is a much more viable long. But it hasn't really. It's just swing failed the low and then swing failed the high. So again, we need to see. But not something I want to short right now, but looking for potential longs on SNT there. Oh, that's not good. Why is OBS Studio disconnecting and reconnecting? Oh, reconnection successful. Hopefully that nothing appears to have happened, but you never know. SNX, again, I've got an alert very slightly lower here. It's got an annual level. So that's, yeah, something that definitely should be on your radar. And maybe even, like, I don't know if it's front run me come off this 2-week demand here. Like everything else, it still has a significant amount of supply above. I think it doesn't look like I've actually put an alert on this. You know, it does have a 3-week supply up here, and it's got that 5-day untested at the top. At this point I was running out of alerts, so I can't remember if I made the decision to not waste an alert on it, or whether also, you know, if it comes down into annual demand, then I probably expect all these zones to get taken out. But yeah, I might just throw in that 3-week supply alert while I'm here. But as I say, if it hits that yearly demand first, then it's not necessarily high probability. So yeah, keep an eye on that as it drops down a little bit lower. Solo, still quite a lot of S's to go. Solo, again, it's got an annual demand down here, so I think I've just been more conservative. I think I had an alert here on the 3-day demand. It could still hold here, but again, now it's made a monthly supply and it's rejected that. Let me just check. That has, yeah, so it's just gone up and tapped that monthly supply and rejected it, so I do expect this to come lower. So yeah, I'd wait on that until it gets down into this annual, and hopefully not all the way down here inside the annual, but and or if it gives you more to negate this monthly. Not solve. This was one I actually liked, and I've put this in the group a couple of days ago for people to watch. I set an alert myself on this 3-day demand, which obviously it hasn't tested because the market hates me. It made a 2-day. I think the 2-day might not have been confirmed. Why is my mouse just not working properly? Yeah, so it's made a 2-day and it's obviously just tapped off the top of that and is now moving back through whatever that 12-hour supply is, or 8-hour supply up here. So it's still, again, is it sideways accumulation? It's still like choppy and messy, which makes it more challenging. But this is, you know, this possibility this will take off. My concern, I guess, is that we're still very much stalling under the most immediate supply here. So hopefully it won't reject here, or actually, well, no, hopefully it will. To be honest, like, we'll see. Hopefully it won't just throw a giant green candle and really annoy me. But hopefully we'll get a rejection like that and back down into this 3-day before the move, or just a dip down into this 3-day. I think there's also. It also looks like there's an 8-hour under there. So yeah, there's an 8-hour here also, which was tested immediately but hasn't had a round of retest. But yeah, anyway, keep an eye on this one because this again is looking like one of the nicer charts. This is rejecting that 8-hour supply at the high there. So again, while it's still, and then this is again the structural issues that we have. So this is your last down move on the daily. Inside that we have an 8-hour move. And then that's your low. So really, then I don't count these because they're not significant breaks below this, but this is really your last wave down and then 8-hour supply. So all of this is just sideways consolidation inside that last down move. Therefore, you know, while this is looking like it's building up, it's not, you know, it's still under most recent supply, and then not to mention the fact we've got a daily immediately above. But yeah, anyway, if you want to scalp this, you know, this is now made. It's going to make a daily demand today. It's got an 8-hour demand in there. You know, it made an 8-hour and then it held that and it's bounced off that. So, you know, if you can look for aggressive longs at, you know, 0.041 if you want on this up here, and then that's the more conservative, higher time frame entry should it revisit. Sonic. So another one that's sort of a fairly major and nasty downtrend, but possibly. So I put an alert here on more aggressively on 5-day supply in there, just because I'm seeing still quite a few of these rejecting. However, you know, as I go down the time frames, you can see like maybe it's going to hold here and be a swing fail. But so I'll see what the reaction is here on this 5-day. But what potentially, you know, if the market's ready to reverse and that's a swing fail of the low, then it could go up, take out the highs, and then you look for the long here on the retest. Again, where I've been seeking to short is where I then look for a long. But until then, we're still bearish, so we're still expecting that down move. SOSO gave a kind of a nasty wick yesterday, so my alert went off. Oops. So yeah, my alert went off on this yesterday for, it was actually, there was a weekly which I later noticed, or 2 weekly, but I think I had an alert on this 4-hour demand at the base. So by the time I looked at it, it had already wicked through it and already closed back well back above. So I have reset the alert on this for a possible retest of that 2-weekly level and this low that we had previously, which we may or may not get. And then possibly a short on this 4-hour supply up here, but again, just a chart without much history. And it's a, you know, it's a fairly nasty chart. You can see by the price action here is just odd. So maybe it's getting a lot of wash trading and is probably relatively low volume. SPAR, again, one I was bullish on back here, but again, couldn't get past supply. There's a surprise. So bullish on it because it had this 3-month demand. What that level's still doing in there. And, you know, but so it got a little bounce off the top, but only got as far as 3-day supply, and now it's dropped deeper in size. So I've got another alert here that hasn't quite been hit on the weekly demand. So again, still looking for, you know, I mean, in these structures, I'm seeing too many break down now, but, you know, we're still looking for that higher low here, for the possibility of that. But the problem is what I'm seeing on a lot of these now, because this isn't a significant breakout, that they're just little tests and then falling to the next zone, or in some cases just falling straight through here. So if it does that, then we're looking down here on this monthly demand, and that should be higher probability. Oh, it seems I've got another alert off the chart at the top there. Let me just go back to that. Yeah, okay, so, keeping my drawing on. So yeah, I've got another alert here on weekly supply if it gets up there, which I'm actually going to delete because I can't afford to waste them. But yeah, so my bias on this is still bullish, but again, being phenomenally slow, and, you know, could potentially do this and trickle all the way back down to the start of the impulse before it actually does anything. SPEC, another one that's just major downtrend. I threw in an alert here on 2-day supply. I think I was fluctuating. I did have it on 3-day and then I moved it up, but it, you know, again, it's the point of breakdown. So I prefer that one, or, you know, again, higher in the drop, you know, more at a premium, and even this is probably still aggressive, but got that breakdown level. I've also got a monthly level, so there's also a monthly level in that's a little bit higher, so even that might be too aggressive. You know, this is interesting. It is again starting to show a slight uptrend on the daily, but still has weekly supply, or has maybe just tested, no, it's potentially going to create a weekly supply, so not something I particularly want to long right now, given also that there's nothing over here. But this could give you some build up. Spell. Looking for this monthly demand, so it hasn't, it's come off the 3-week just above. It could have swing failed these lows. I think it might have another spell chart. Well, no, maybe not. I just feel like this hasn't got anything on it. Maybe I forgot to chart it. Or I've somehow lost my drawings, or maybe there just weren't any. There's actually no supply in there, so there's no supply on any time frame until we get to the 5-day, and then there's a 5-day at this monthly level. So I'm trying not to go down too low time frame, but yeah, so yeah, there's no supply there that I actually would want to short There is a 3-day up the top there. So possibly this is a 3-day supply, you know, if you want to look for shorts and we come all the way back up there. But again, this is coming off monthly demand. So this is a kind of a nice sideways consolidation. Again, it's swing failed the high, so is it going to come back and take out all these lows? It's possible. But again, we can look for those possibly getting a higher low in here, so I'd like it to touch lower would be nice. But yeah, that's not too bad a chart actually in the grand scheme of things, assuming it holds. SPX is now starting to look a little bit more ropey. But again, could have just swing failed these lows, that is possible. Could just see a little deviation of that low and those lows. It is still holding 12-hour demand, but then again, now has this 3-week supply in here. Let me check it's confirmed. No, it's 3 weeks over from the left actually, so it hasn't actually confirmed weekly supply on this. I think I've just preempted it. It's come back up into the zone, it's a 5-day zone. So possibly it holds here, and then I would look for shorts higher. Because if we have swing failed the low again, I would expect to take out these zones. So again, yeah, something also worth watching here, but again, that's similar structure to Ether and to many other things. You know, it's made this daily supply. If we can make a daily demand here, you can potentially look for long entries on that daily demand. But it's still notably right in daily supply there, so I just don't know if it's going to reject shortly and then start to drop off. You know, preferred long entry would be like now testing the next zone, having had multiple tests on this zone. SSV, and back down too low time frame again, drop back up. So this is on a 3-month demand, and again, it's just deeper inside it now. Like I had a first bounce on it, and it's come deeper, so might hold here. There's a 3-day right at the bottom if it doesn't, but you know, again, just it's too early for this, but this is an area where it could hold. On the short side, I've set an alert for 2-month supply should it revisit higher. Steam is another one that's looking like it wants to break down, like it has tried to, you know, it's trying to find new support on that low there, but again, now still has that 2-month supply and then 2-week supply just inside it, so I've just put again more aggressive short on that. But again, if it fails, it fails. But possibility of this being multiple swing fails of the lows and going up to take out the high is there. But with a 2-month supply, with the 2-week site in it and various other zones inside it, I'm not, again, overly confident. STG, another one that's just broken down now. So again, I've gone more aggressive on 2-month supply and then a 2-week just inside it on this. There is a 4-day now just below that, so hopefully I won't get front run. Yeah, just watch this come. If this comes back up and comes back up and gives a little test in there, that is potentially a short entry you can take, or more aggressively on the 4-day there if you want to preempt it. Stonks, we talked about them as part of the alerts, but again, just in case nobody's watching the alerts and just watching the S's. It's a lower high, we've got weak demand, but we have a weekly demand and a 2-weekly demand, so I had an alert set for the weekly. Obviously it's come a bit down inside that now into like a daily zone inside it, and then there's this 2-week alert here. They're weak zones, you know, we haven't managed to make a new high. Again, one of the few that's holding up here, may be worth watching in case we can get more consolidation through here for a bigger move. Oh, awesome. And there we go, I lost my chart, so that's kind of annoying because I did make some new things on it. So it probably won't have saved them, which is kind of irritating, but so be it. Where was I up to? Yeah, so we lost. Hasn't saved it for a while, so if I haven't put loads on it, so it's not horrendous. What was I up to? StoreJ, yeah. So StoreJ again back down on a monthly demand, but second test of it has taken out that low. So you know it's come deeper in the monthly demand, so possibly it's done its ABC and it's going to move. It's got, same as everything else, 2-month supply. Not sure why in this case I haven't coloured it in. Probably because it's such a huge zone. So it's got 2 monthly supply in there. It might make 3 months and 6 months even at the sort of similar level. It is in fact only a 6-month demand as well, so this makes it again more challenging on the high time frame. So it was just in a 6-month demand, or I just hallucinated that. No, it's in a larger 3-month demand. I think I just hid it because it's come down deeper inside it. So this is something again could run from here. It has just taken out the lows, but again has the 2-month supply, 3-week inside it, a little bit above. So timing is going to be more critical on this. For some reason I haven't put, I could put a long entry on this 5, just trying to find me across, on this 5-day demand down here. I think the problem is I'm just seeing a lot of these break down now. So I'm now just being slightly more reticent, but I'll throw an alert in there anyway, just in case. But yeah, I don't know. Again, at a point it could bounce, but not showing the signs of bouncing as yet. STPT is again one of the ones that I was more bullish on. That's now made a 5-day supply in there now by the looks of it, or at least an indirect supply. More bullish again just simply because it's in an uptrend compared to many other things. But again, it's still looking kind of corrective, and I haven't commented on it this stream, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we getting an A, B, an extended B, and a C? That's always kind of been my concern, and some of the charts are showing that now. But having said that, we've had a decent impulse. Excuse my computer reloading again. We have had a decent impulse through here, so it's certainly worth looking for if we're going to get retest long entries. So in this case, and it does have, so we've got, it's in a monthly supply over, I've just hidden that because it came up into the weekly inside it. It's got a 6-month demand there, but I think, yeah, that has already been tested. Yeah, so I did talk about this a little bit in the alerts as well, but it's now hit a 2-weekly demand in here. I think I had an alert for the daily more aggressive, or a 2-day demand up here more aggressively, and it's come down inside that into the 2-week. But yeah, this is, it has less supply on this. So again, it's got 12-hour immediately above, but if you can see some demand form on this, then that's certainly worth looking for longs on. I had this short entry that was just missed with 2-hour supply at the highs, which I've left in, but again, if we're coming down off this 2-week demand, then that's very possibly could make a new high. But again, one of the few that actually looks vaguely interesting. I'm just going to reset this alert though while I'm here. So it's got this daily that's not quite tested at the bottom. 1-day demand, so it hasn't quite been tested, and then it's a 6-month level retest at the same time. So it's come down deep into this 6-month demand. Not sure. Yeah, I think that would be the move off the 6-month demand. So it's come down deep inside it, but again, if it comes back to the start of this up move and retest that 6-month level, or even the 3-week level, but somewhere around here, that could be the start of a decent move if it's not going to happen from where we currently are now. I might just hide that 2 days so it's not in the way. But yeah, it's got a couple of 12-hour supplies in here, so don't be FOMOing in this right now. Wait for it to reject off here and see what it does, if it makes some new demands through there. STRAX, back up to my weekly. So this is down. I apparently have no alerts on this, not sure why. So I think it's down. Yeah, it's down in a monthly demand, but obviously it's tested it a few times and has not bounced from there. I wonder if this has now been, why I didn't put any alerts on this. It's still on MEXC. But yeah, I think, okay, possibly I didn't put any alerts. So the monthly's already tested 1, 2, 3 times, so we are in a monthly demand, but I don't love it. And then also on this weekly supply, it's been tested. The 2-week, it's been tested here, it's been tested here. So there's nothing on the sort of the mid-high time frames that I really want to be looking at longing or shorting on this. Like you could short 5-day supply here, but we're right in monthly demand, so this just needs more time. So I guess there's no high probability trades on that right now. STRK is another one that's looking pretty ugly. It's got a new 5-day supply that's about to hit now. So again, no reason you can't be looking for aggressive shorts on these. And these that are epically going down. So this has a 5-day and a 4-day just above, and it had a 3-day in there. Definitely put some of these in before. So monthly supply up here, so that's where I've alerted 2 monthly supply. So if we get a retrace up there, that would be where I'd look for short entries, higher probability short entries, but there's no reason you can't scalp short this from where it is now. STX, another one that I was more bullish on. This is in a 3-month demand. It's just hit the weekly inside the 3-month. Oh. Something to keep an eye on. It's got a 2-month supply like everything else. I've gone slightly more conservative because this also is in a better upward structure than to many other things. So again, the question is irritating me. The question is, it's sort of, you can see you've got similar structure to here. This obviously has another up move in the middle, but is this going to retrace like that? Or are we again going to make the higher low here? The problem is, again, on this we do have a swing fail of the high. So I guess my instinct on that would mean that we should take out that low. So I would say that's a higher probability long entry from a macro perspective. However, we're in monthly and weekly demands, so I should at a minimum expect to get some sort of test. So yeah, this is something that's worth watching. It's in a decent demand at least. SUI, something that obviously everybody loves. So this has a big annual demand down here, so that would obviously be the preferred long entry. We still haven't got to like moving my more aggressive long entry, so I put one for this weekly demand here, and then there is a 3-month just below, so I've kind of alerted just for this general area. But this is holding daily demand at the start of the up move. But again, it's still forming a downtrend, got a nice short entry in there, and again I've got a more conservative one because we had a bit of a drop through here, bit of a gap that hasn't properly been tested up there. But again, I probably wouldn't look to short this if we hit demand first, and now we're just very close to demand. So yeah, just need to see the rejection here and watch what we get through here. I mean, a lot of these I guess also are coinciding with what I think Bitcoin is doing or should do, and I still want that extra drop on Bitcoin, and then maybe we'll get that drop on some of these alts down properly into zones that I want. Suncat, again, just set the alert for 2 months supply on that. This is just one of Justin's sons, I believe his TRX offering. Yeah, I mean, this has had a wick that's come very close to testing that level on the monthly, and then it's got a 3-week just up inside it. So maybe this is not going to work if it comes back up there, or maybe it won't come back up there, having already made daily supply. But yeah, so on this, just watch it as it comes into that zone, be a little bit conscious that it could retrace a bit more up here, and you'll see what it gives. Sundog, another one of Justin's sons. So this is one that's looking better again. I had an alert here for 12-hour daily demand. Should it revisit for me? What else do we have in here? I guess we've got a 4-day that's being tested now. It's a week 4-day. So again, you can watch more aggressive longs possibly on this and this daily in here if you want. Maybe I'll set an alert on that to see. Not sure. I just don't like it when it's got this gap down here and also having hit supply there. I guess we'll see. Anyway, you can watch for longs in here. I might think about setting an alert for a little bit more aggressive alert on this for that daily, and then look for a move up into monthly supply. This is a very vaguely nice looking chart. Sun is also nice looking, so, and again is challenging one structurally, but it's had this 3-month demand here that it's had for a while, so I was looking for longs on when we got hits on that previously. Obviously gave a really nice move, then we had a retest move which didn't really get very far at all, but to be fair, again, weak demand because we haven't been able to break this high. So I do expect to break these lows. It's just a question of how low we go from there. I've set the next alert for 2 months demand down here. But there's also a 3-week, it could again retrace more of this impulse. And again, you're on this, you know, in case I'm wrong, and it is just going to hold here now. Just watch that trend line. See if we can get a break of that trend line. I actually could set an alert on that. I think I didn't want to, yeah. So the other issue with this is, okay, you can see now we've got 2 months supply. And again, while we might run inside it, you know, it's possible that even if we do, like, it could just reject off the 2 month, or maybe it already has done that. Yeah, it already has hit that 2 month. So it could just reject and now drop. Or, you know, we could end up with a running wick that goes through all this. So I don't think I've set anything on the short side. Yeah, I don't want to set anything on the short side really because of this 3 month demand. I mean, like, there's a part of me is like thinking maybe here. But I also know I mulled this over yesterday and then kind of thought no for some reason. But oh, maybe I'll set one there just to see. Possibly I didn't, just because it might reject here off the 2 month. But also, so if we do get a drop down into here, or even just a drop swing failing those lows, then, you know, look for the possibility of sort of accumulation and then manipulation and an expansion. If you look at the bottom of Ripple, you'll see that sort of similar pattern where it just kind of falls and falls off a cliff. It's different over here, but falls off a cliff and then pumps straight back through it. Super. Yeah, again, I've just been more conservative on the alerts up there. I'm not sure what this is doing. They're floating miles away from the level, but so yeah, there's a. Let me check where I put on that alert. The cross is higher. So yeah, that's just the 3 week supply that I've alerted up here. If it retests, but it has the 2 month right next to price, so you know this could be it, and maybe it's just going to fall. Like I did have the long entry there, so yes, also potentially could hold here, but now with the 2 month supply immediately above, it's not high probability. So set an alert down here to see if it does get a test back down in that zone. Let me just go back onto the log chart because it looks a bit better. Yeah, so you can see that it potentially could hold here as support. Not sure, I guess there was a weekly or a monthly in there previously that maybe has run through now. But yeah, with that 2 month supply, I'm not confident of looking for longs on this right now. Yeah, like I say, I already talked about in the other alerts, and yeah, and it's as I described previously, you know, we've got these impulses up, and you know, now is this an A, B, C? Which I'm inclined to think it is. You know, this is very corrective price action, but also, excuse me, it may not hit. You know, this could happen in 2030. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It can still go sideways in here for a while before maybe something else sent it off a cliff. Anyway, I did have a short entry up on this weekly supply, which it did run through. I've set a new one for the daily inside it, but also it's now made, it's made a 2 day and a daily like below that. But I was looking for possibly aggressive longs, which with hindsight was a bit foolish off this overall monthly supply. But yeah, I need to see a bit more of this. It does pick up. It could have picked up a higher low here, but if it was going to, if it was going to pick up the higher low here, then I would have expected it to maybe bounce a little bit higher. I'm just going to turn my microphone off for a moment where I have a cough. It's what comes of being a smoker and then talking too much. Yeah, anyway, I just don't love this to trade right now. It's too much in a sideways triangle sort of thing going on. Sushi, 4% up move today. So again, this isn't a monthly demand, so I quite like it in the bigger picture. Whether it's going to drop deeper inside, I don't know. It now has hit the 2 week level, which has obviously already been tested. But again, just too much supply above, so I just don't know if it's ready. And what I'm going to need to see, I guess again with a lot of the alts again, I'll need to see some of them start pumping through these zones and coming back and testing them, and then we can be more confident that the ones that are behind can come back. And the ones behind are going to do the same thing. And like much what you see here, that we're still in this downtrend, and then still in a downtrend. We could be at that point here, still in that downtrend, but then we get that move It then runs through supply, but then we get, and you know, everyone will be like, oh, you've missed out if it goes up, but then what we will get are the retests, much like we had here. Hopefully. It's possible we don't get the retest, but in most cases we'll get retests already, so some of them sure might just take off straight from there, but in a lot of cases, you know, they will do this. So we can get those retest entries if necessary. So this for now is still under 5-day supply. I've been more conservative on the alert due to monthly demand, but I guess, yeah, we'll see. Swarms was one I was more bullish on. It didn't quite hit my 5-day demand there, like the alert went. So I've reset it, but obviously it hasn't come back down there since. So let me just see what we have. So this has made a weekly demand. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so it's got a 2-day demand now and a 2-day supply. I think that's why I was reticent on this. I'm going to move this alert. I'm going to put in a 2-day. I think I was a little bit reticent because it's already tested here on a wick and it's also got this 2-day supply. But given we have the weekly demand, I think I'd kind of be foolish to not at least watch it if it comes back here. So yeah, those are the kind of two possible entries. Looking for a higher low, like I'd like to see a rejection off this 2-day. If it goes straight through this 2-day, then I'll just have to look for a new entry and hope it doesn't go all the way up there first. Yeah, I would like to see this 2-day reject, come down and take out the immediate low. So reject here, come back down and take out that low that it's made from yesterday or the day before, and then come into this zone for that move. So I think that's worth an eye to get in early, and then failing that, if it does break down, then we're looking at down here. Sweat. So this is got also a 2-month supply immediately above, and also a yearly. I think that's why I've got 2 crosses on that. I'm not sure exactly why. Yearly supply immediately above. That could be a quite nice short if it does give the retest. Only a few left now, so swell. 2 charts on this. So yeah, swell that obviously Bybit had a huge wick down, but it doesn't add any extra information. I suppose it's trying to hold that broadly, that level of support. But yeah, I mean, for now, this is still in a downtrend. You know, the Bybit chart makes it look slightly more interesting. So I gave it a nice short entry up here, and then I've added, so now it's got a 3-week supply in here. So I've added a short entry on that 3-week supply. Whether it gets up there, I don't know. There's a 5-day just underneath it as well. There's a 5-day just underneath it as well. You see, yeah, it's just, again, a bit of a choppy on the low time frames. Like, I don't know if it could reject off this 3-day, but again, you're just semi-guessing where it may or may not reject on that down move. But, you know, it's possibly worth watching this for longs based on this other chart, you know, that it's... looks kind of nicer when you look at it in this kind of angle. I don't know if that even goes up to the start, 0.72. 0.72 or 0.072? 0.072. So the high on this is 0.072. So that's slightly confusing. So this seems to have started higher, the gate chart. And maybe I shouldn't be... Yeah, I guess this is probably not ideal because that candle at the beginning is probably sort of a fake candle. So yeah, I'll stick with the gate chart on this, but that does actually make it look less bad, but either way it still doesn't have new demand worth looking for longs. But you can watch this to see if that's, you know, that's its new support down there. And if that's just going to hold as a support before an up move. SXP, monthly supply or 3 monthly supply up there, so I've alerted that for the short, and then it also has all-time low from the KuCoin chart down here that I've alerted for the possibility of a breakdown, either a swing fail of the low or a fake or a breakdown and a retest short entry. And failing that, yeah, I'm just looking for a short on this 3-month supply up here. Sin. Another one that's just broken down and been slightly more aggressive on the possible short in here for 2 weeks supply because it's already got some tests through there. But again, like much of this is guessing and speculation until you see the levels hit. But this is looking like a fairly firm breakdown at this stage. So yeah, that's a reasonable to look for a more aggressive short entry on that. CIS, much the same, I think. So this does actually have demand. So yeah, I've obviously looked at the CoinEx chart to add levels on this. It is in a 2-monthly demand at the moment, but obviously, you know, the first bounce gave a decent bounce off whatever retest I had in there. This one now has obviously made a lower low, so it's got a new 2-monthly supply like everything else. So I've alerted the 2-monthly supply, and then I've also alerted the monthly demand down the bottom from the other chart. Is that it? I was just about to go on to takeover. Yeah, actually that's all the S's, isn't it? Which is probably good, since I feel like I'm about to have a huge coughing fit. Yeah, so I hope that's useful. That's a pretty long stream, and I have to go for dinner now, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the timestamps until later. Get back to, I can't remember which chart I was on previously that I quite like to watch. I think SLC. Oh, this is bad. Yeah, I should probably go before I lose my voice entirely and then can't do a stream for months more. But yeah, like, I hope that's useful. It's more just a lot of it for me to make sure I'm on top of all the alts, and like it helps me be on top of what the market's doing as a whole, but also to give you some entry ideas. And you know, hopefully, I don't know what we've got on. Trump, I guess, is coming up, about to talk at 8 o'clock, isn't he? Assume that hasn't happened already. No, I don't think the Ether hasn't moved that much, so we're just getting a test. So yeah, we've got another 40 minutes, and then maybe we're going to get some Trump comments on crypto. So we'll just have to see what happens there. If we get any dramatic moves, I'll try and do a stream at the weekend to kind of update and see if any structures have changed. But yeah, so I hope that's useful, and as always, please like and subscribe if you're interested. Let me know if you have any questions in Telegram, etc, etc. And have a good weekend if I don't manage to stream before next week.